Hey everybody, Charles here, and welcome to day 14 of testimony, day 14 in the Diddy trial. This one, how's this for a bit of a bombshell on the stand? Testimony about Diddy rescuing someone from R. Kelly. Yeah, that happened. So, day 14 featured Mia, the former Diddy assistant, back on the stand. Mia, of course, as we told you, is the pseudonym under which she is testifying anonymously. She was under cross-examination from Diddy's attorney, Brian Steele, today. And, you know, there's always been this feeling, and we've talked about it on the shows before, that when you are dealing with a victim or alleged victim of sexual assault, that if you're doing the cross-examination, you got to walk this fine line, right? Because you don't want to be seen to be, by the jurors, to be attacking a victim of sexual assault. I don't think that's the case anymore. And I'm basing that on what I saw from Brian Steele today and what Jose Baez, a famed defense attorney, told us on TMZ Live last week. He said the courtroom is not a delicate place. It's not a place where you're going to be delicate. You have to do your best to to defend your client, and that requires going after people who are on the stand. And that's what we saw happen with Mia today and Brian Steele, who wanted to make the point, and you know, Bill Maher's name did not come up in court, but man, I felt like it was sort of hanging over court all day today because of the things that Brian Steele grilled Mia about. And some people will call this victim shaming, and other people will say Brian Steele, as Diddy's attorney, is asking the questions he needs to try and punch holes in her credibility as a witness. So he ended up showing a bunch of text messages or emails that Mia had sent to Diddy over the years, wishing him a Merry Christmas, sending him, quote, all the love in the world, also reminiscing about good times. For instance, this was interesting, Mick Jagger's name came up. Apparently there was a moment when they were in Europe and Mick Jagger tried to take Mia home. And so they exchanged texts about that. It's all sort of friendly stuff. And Brian Steele's point he was trying to make was, well, if you're sending these warm, fuzzy, loving messages to someone that you say sexually assaulted you multiple times, that just doesn't make sense. And she sort of fought back against that and said nobody knew what was happening, or nobody around acted like it was wrong. She said people saw the abuse, not necessarily the sexual assaults, the alleged sexual assaults, but she says nobody acted like what was happening to me was wrong. And Diddy's threats about that he was going to tell Cassie about what had happened made me internalize blame and shame. So this was why I say Bill Maher was hanging over the courtroom. If you didn't see it on his show on Friday night on Real Time, he talked about a new rule. And his new rule was that going forward, if you are a victim of the type of abuse that Mia is alleging, that Cassie has alleged, that you need to come forward. That if you don't tell anybody and 10, 15, 20 years later, you come forward with this, you're making it very difficult to prosecute the people who did this to you because people aren't going to believe you. So his point was that after the Me Too movement, this is sort of a safe place, that people are going to believe you, that victims and alleged victims will be supported, so come forward. Some people took that as victim shaming, and clearly I think Mia today on the stand felt like she was being victim shamed because Brian Steele kept making the point, you are sending warm messages, you're staying in touch with him, why are you doing that? And her point was, this is part of the psychological grip that Diddy had on me, that he had on Cassie, that he had on others, and that this was the only way to deal with it, because if she actually did tell someone, she feared retribution in a very big way. And she talked about the fact that Diddy put tracking devices on Cassie's car. She said that he had stolen her phone and Cassie's phone many times. She just wasn't sure what he was capable of, and she said she was terrified. So that's the rebuttal to what Bill Maher is suggesting, and she's saying to Bill Maher, she would say this, and she certainly was saying it to Brian Steele in court today. No, I didn't go forward and tell people about these things. She said, in fact, that she was going to take that, the sexual assault allegation, she was going to take that to the grave. And Brian Steele suggested she was only coming forward now with the sexual assault allegation. He says that the first time she brought it up was June of 2024 in a conversation with prosecutors. And she said, I can't remember exactly the dates, but I do remember it was a horrible conversation to have. But he was suggesting she only brought it up as a money grab. He said, you only spoke about the sexual assault for a, quote, money grab after you saw Cassie get a settlement, after Cassie had filed her lawsuit, and then the next day Diddy settled it with her, we now know, for $30 million. So he is suggesting, Brian Steele, is that after that happened, Mia decided she was going to go for her own money grab, and that's why she told prosecutors about the alleged sexual assaults. Now, she stared him down and said, quite frankly, no, I am not here for a money grab. She has not, to this point, filed any civil lawsuit against Diddy, and when Brian Steele asked her, you intend to sue Mr. Combs for compensation? You want money? And she said no, she is not going to. We do know she got a $200,000 or $400,000 settlement. Half of that went to her lawyers, she said, but that was for her when she was fired and she was contesting why she had been fired from Combs Enterprises. So as for this whole victim shaming thing, it is still going to go on. This is a debate that people are going to continue having about this. But I think, you know, what Mia said on the stand today, what we have heard psychologists say. There was a psychologist, Dawn Hughes, who testified last week or the week before about this very thing, trying to sort of blunt what the prosecutors knew the defense was going to do. And Dawn Hughes said, look, this is part of this psychological grip. It is Stockholm syndrome and this whole dream. I've got to talk to you about this dream now because it really plays into this. And what Dawn Hughes said is that victims sometimes they have a close relationship in their mind with their abusers, and that they sometimes may even put them on a pedestal, but that doesn't mean that what's happening to them is any less wrong. So what I said at the top here about a Diddy saving someone from R. Kelly, this is what Mia testified about. And the defense is clearly bringing this up because they think this shows that Mia adores Diddy and adored Diddy. Another text Mia sent to Diddy after she was working at Bad Boy was about a dream she had wherein she was trapped in an elevator with R. Kelly and Diddy, quote, saved her. So the defense wants to bring this up. Like I said, they want to show that she has warm feelings about Diddy and that he even came to the rescue. Psychologists, and we had one on TMZ Live today, who said, no, this does not mean that she loves Diddy and doesn't think that she was abused. It's more a sign of just how much she was abused. So, winners and losers today. This may be controversial, and I wish it weren't this way, but I gotta say, I think the defense wins today. And I think they won because Brian Steele was an absolute pit bull and going after Mia and trying to show all these things. Look at all of these messages. There were scores of messages that she sent to Diddy that he continued to show. And yes, she had an explanation, but you gotta remember, all Brian Steele is trying to do is get one juror to go, that is weird. That is really weird. And if you have one juror who doesn't buy what Mia is saying, then it doesn't work for any of the jurors, right? Because you just need one juror who's going to say, now, I don't think that gets him off on all counts. I think it may get him off of one of the counts. And I think that's why Brian Steele and the defense wins today. Doesn't mean that they're going to win the whole thing, but I think that was an effective job by Brian Steele in poking holes in Mia's credibility. Yeah, that's why you got to say that today the defense won, at least on this witness. And I don't know. I don't know if that's going to be enough for him, but that's Brian Steele's job, and I think he did it as effectively as he could today, even though it was really harsh to see and hear what Mia had to go through on the stand.